Hi everyone, this is Yana, and today I'm going to share a very sunny and bright card using supplies from Simon Says Stamp. So here I have two stamp sets, a white background striped stamp and summer garden stamp set with beautiful flowers. Now this background stamp is 6 by 6 inches, so you can use it either vertically or horizontally, which makes it really versatile. And the summer garden set not only has beautiful flowers, but also some very pretty sentiments. There are some matching dies too for you to die cut the flowers out. For my color combo for this card, I used my color palette book. It's not really a book, more of a bunch of printed color palette images from Pinterest, but I often use it to decide which colors of ink I want to use for my projects. I settled on this yellow, brown, green, and red color combo. I've never used it before, so I was curious as to how these colors would look together when combined in a card. Now for my yellow, I picked the Simon Says Stamp Sunshine ink, and I'm going to use it to stamp my background stripes. I'm going to begin by inking my cling stamp with that yellow ink. I really love how vibrant it is. When it stamps, at first it looks a bit blotchy, but it evens out later and creates a very nice coverage. So I'm going to ink up my stamp, place my paper on top, and use a brayer to apply even pressure to my paper. I'm using Yana Smakula cardstock for my card today. Now, this particular brayer is from Clear Snap, and I really like using it for my background stamping with cling and wood-mounted stamps, as I can really press the paper onto the stamp and have the ink transfer evenly. You can use your fingers to press down on your paper, but I found that sometimes I press too hard and end up having ink where it's not supposed to be. So I'm using this brayer instead. So here's what my stamped background looks like. Like I said before, the ink looks uneven at this point, but it's going to soak into the paper and even out. So it's going to look better and more even later. Now, I originally wanted to have a masked diagonal stripe there for my sentiment, but this ink tends to go through the masks, like through masking paper, so I decided it would be better to just cut my background into two pieces and create that diagonal space, sort of like a negative diagonal space that way. For now, I'm just going to use a strip of white cardstock that will imitate where I want the white space and the sentiment to be so that I can plan my stamping accordingly. I'm also going to stamp each of the flowers from the set a few times on Yana Smakula white cardstock using Memento Tuxedo black ink. I want to color those images with my Copic markers, so I need to use the ink that's not going to bleed. So here are my stamped images. I feel like I have a coloring book in front of me. You can see I've stamped each of the flowers 3 times and also some greenery and some leaves. Because I want everything to match to my original color palette, I'm going to try to match the colors of the Copic markers that I use to that color palette. So I'm going to use reds, yellows, browns, and also a bit of green to do my coloring. You can use other markers or color pencils or even do some watercolor to color these in. You can also stamp them on colored cardstock in black or white ink. That looks really cool too. I've done it before and I'll have a link to that card for you to check out. Now, I'm not a pro with Copic markers, so I'm going to skip the coloring part and we'll go right to the card assembly. So here I have my colored and die-cut flowers. I used the matching dies to cut these out. I love how easy that is. If you don't have matching dies, you can always use your scissors. It's not that hard, but it does take a bit longer. Next, I'm going to use my paper trimmer and we'll create a diagonal cut in my background. I'm keeping that piece of paper there as a guide so that I have the angle that I want. I'm using a piece of washi tape to hold that paper in place while I make the cut on one side. I'm then removing it and placing it on the already cut side and make another cut with my paper trimmer. Now, the blade in my paper trimmer is a bit dull, so it often doesn't cut all the way and it sometimes leaves like a fuzzy edge. So what I do is I usually use my scissors and just trim all of that fuzziness away. Now, I have my background just as I want with a diagonal white stripe closer to the bottom, or like a diagonal negative space closer to the bottom. I'm then going to layer my flowers on both sides of the cut. I originally wanted to trim my flowers and follow that diagonal line, but as I started layering them, I really like how they looked as is. So I added a large, medium, and small flower and also a few leaves to the top part of my background. I slided the bottom part of the background and the white stripe away and adhered the die-cut pieces down using the multi-matte medium. I held the pieces in place with one hand as I didn't want any of it to move and adhered with another. I then did the same for the bottom part of my background, also added the flowers and the leaves and adhered them down. Next, I placed the two background pieces onto an A2 top folding card. You can see now that I have that white space more towards the bottom of my card to include my sentiment. I cut off a part of a larger flower from the bottom part of my background so that it would not prevent my card from standing, and then used a pencil to trace around the flowers on my white card base. I did that so that I could make sure that my sentiment would be visible and so that it would also be stamped at the same angle that my background was cut. By doing this, I realized that I need to stamp my sentiment not in the center, but a bit closer to the left edge of the card. I used the same onyx black ink to stamp my sentiment. After I added my sentiment, that white space felt a bit too empty, so I decided to stamp a few more flowers in the background. I used the same yellow ink, that sunshine ink from Simon Says Stamp, to do my stamping. I still had those pencil lines there, so it was really easy to see where I need to do my stamping and whether it's going to be visible or not. I added the stamping below and also above the sentiment using the flower stamps from the Summer Garden set, the same ones that I used to stamp and die cut my main flowers out. I was then able to erase the pencil lines from my card base and adhered my stamped background pieces to my card. I did have to trim the top panel just a bit to make sure that it would fit on my card. I used foam adhesive to adhere my striped panels to my card base just to create a bit of dimension and drop a little bit of shadow on my sentiment. I also added a few red and orange enamel dots around my flower just for some added interest. And that finished my project for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're looking for a list of supplies to create this card, you can find it below in the video description or on my blog. And if you like this video, please remember to click the thumbs up button, drop me a comment, and share it with your friends. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.